morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Try to keep the whole conference on schedule. We'll get going. Is everybody in watching Grant? Listen to Grant?
Yes.
I had to leave early to come in here, and this gentleman helped me set up. You know, I've known him or of him for a very long time. I was taking notes from him, and I've been in the business longer than he has. So, I mean, it just proves, for some of us who've been in the business a while, we never stop learning. My name is Cunningham. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. I work with NCM Associates right now. I was a former client of them. I was a dealer. I grew up in the car business. I did everything I could to not be in the car business, but I kept backing into it, selling cars, sales manager, general sales manager, GM, dealer, and ended up having 5 dealerships at one point in time in Kansas City and sold them about 10 years ago. It's kind of funny, when I got my original tag yesterday, it said Cunningham Automotive Group, and I was talking to the guys. I said, where in the world did you get that name? It hasn't been active in 10 years, and someone said, well, we must have Googled it, and it's still out there. So no telling what reputation I have at this point, 10 years. But I took some time off, worked in some other businesses, and then got back in the car business about 4 years ago on the consulting side. Always had friends at NCM. My brother's the head of 20 Group Operations. My former CFO is the CFO at NCM. It's kind of like it's a good fit, and I just love, I love being on the learning part of it when you teach. I work primarily on the education side. We have 3 divisions. For any of you, is anybody an NCM client in the room? Does everybody know what a 20 group is? Okay, because that's kind of where benchmarks will come from. We have 3 divisions. We have the biggest division with the most clients is a 20 group, and that's where we have like 20 dealers, like 24 dealers, 20 Toyota dealers, 20 Suzuki dealers, 20 Mercedes dealers, from 20 different markets of essentially the same size. So we have approximately 4,000 rooftops that, or financial statements that we say that we produce 20 group composites from. So when I start talking about benchmarking, I will start talking about what that actually means. What's a benchmark? Okay. So just we are told not to sell anything here, and I absolutely won't be. We're just going to tell who we are. NCM is a 100% employee-owned company. We've been around since 1947. We pioneered the 20 group, and basically it talks about 3 different parts of our business: comprehensive management training programs. That's the educational side, NCM Institute. That's what I do most weeks, is teach GMs, GSMs, used car managers, service managers, controllers in a classroom setting. It's a really unique opportunity. Industry-leading benchmark and analytics kind of come first and foremost from our 20 groups, and that's what I'll talk about in a minute. And then retail operations specialists. We have a whole team of guys and gals that come out that are consultants, and dealership consultants come in and work with your people directly. So benchmarking for success. When we talk about benchmarking, if you imagine a 20 group composite, you open it up like this. The way a 20 group is ranked is the people who do the best, and we've got like 33 pages, from total dealership to expenses to new, used, parts, service, body shop, internet, personnel productivity. You'll see us break some of those down. And on every page, let's just say there's 20 people in that group, we will rank them. You know, there will be a line down here that will say the highest per vehicle retail, or the lowest percentage is a percentage of, lowest expensive, a percentage of gross, or something like that. So everything in that world is about ranking. Group average, you would imagine, would be kind of right in the middle. So however we're ranking something, we use a term called group average. And a number of years ago, we created another term called benchmarking. And benchmarking is about at the 75th percentile. So on any page, when a dealer, and believe me, dealers who are in 20 groups can't wait to get their composite every month, because they want to see, they know how they did, because the way we get that information is from the financial statement. And these days, just like when you send your financial statement into the manufacturer, it's just an electronic transfer. The same thing with us. So people want to not only see, they want to see how well they did against their peers. They want to know that if they were on the left side of the page, and we don't say that's bad, we just say you got a lot more opportunity. Because you want to be moving. If your business is moving, improving, it's moving from this direction to this direction. So benchmark because we're going to be using this term as the 75th percentile. So meaning that there's always going to be 25% of the dealers between benchmark and here that are doing better. And just like if your dealers or GMs or dealership managers, you know where you fit. Okay, so that's what this means. NCM tools and your peers acting as expert advisors, and I'll show you what the tools are in a second over and above what a 20-group composite is. So we compare and contrast operating performance. The dealers, when they, 3 times a year, they'll meet in like hotel-type settings, and there'll be pre-planned agendas. And if somebody's really good in used cars, or somebody's really good in wholesale parts, or somebody's really, really gotten good at the internet, and all the dealers can see it on the composite, because that person might be moving further and further to the left, and his numbers can be growing. And we also have things where we break things down. If you're doing really, really well, if you're at benchmark or above, your numbers are highlighted in green. If they're probably between average and benchmark, they're white, and they're from average or below, they're red. So there's a lot of graphic ways these dealers can see how they're doing. We compute group and benchmark averages. We moderate peer analysis and discussion. That's what happens in a 20-group meeting. These meetings are very pre-planned. They move along because people take time out of their day to come to them. The group members share ideas, advice, and proven techniques. Very few people are great at everything. Like Grant said this morning, and if you also saw David Lewis write, last night, it's all about people. So we address the business owner's dilemma. When he's sitting there looking at, let's just say he's below benchmark, or he's at group average and trying to figure out as a total dealership or by department, how am I going to move forward? Is it the economy? Am I not up to where I could be because of the economy? Is it some uniqueness in my market? Is it my people? I think when we just listen to Grant, I think it's probably always about our people. I think he kind of showed us, without having to do any math, we probably happily invest more money than all those other things on that list besides our people. And fortunately, that's starting to change. Or is it me? Meaning the dealer or the general manager, if it's a bigger group. So, when I look at that line, I say, well, it's probably a combination. If we're honest, it's a combination of both. The economy's not great. Each market is unique. We'd all like to be number one in our market. What's going on with our people? Who are they? Where do they come from? What have we invested in them? And then me, if I'm the dealer, and I was a dealer in a 20 group, the hardest thing to do is come back super fired up from a 20 group meeting, and I liken it to like throwing an ice cube into hot water. What kind of environment have I set up at my dealership? Are they waiting for me with open arms for the new information and the great ideas I might come back with? Or are they going, oh God, here he comes again, it's going to be hell for 90 days until it blows over? I see some smiles in the room, some nodding heads. We know that. Hopefully it's somewhere, in the middle. How do I know if my business processes need improvement? Well, if we get honest with ourselves and we see numbers that show to us we have some opportunity in relation to our peers, do we have a process driven? I was talking to some guys last night, somewhere in the room, it's all about process. Ideas are abundant, but if you want it to be predictable and happen the same way all the time, it's got to be surrounded by a process that everybody knows about, and most importantly, they understand the why. What are my greatest challenges and opportunities? That is kind of an attitude thing. We all have challenges. We can be very realistic about it. But part of it from an attitude standpoint is opportunities. When I'm working with dealership managers each week, and invariably, in many of the cases, this is the first time these guys and gals have ever seen any of the dealership's numbers. It's the first time in a lot of cases they've ever seen a 20 group composite, and they're sort of in shock. They've been sent there for a good reason. We're really happy to see them there because, I asked them, I said, we do pre-interviews. What kind of ongoing training have you gotten since you've been in the retail automobile business? And the answer, in most cases, is pretty darn close to zero on an ongoing basis. Okay? So, are there proven solutions that will work specifically for my business? I think this conference right now is all about, the answer to that is yes. You know, where do we go? Do we go to service? I talked to some guys who are in direct mail who have everything online now. I mean, my gosh, this is such a big business. It's exciting to know that there are so many opportunities. And NCM, somebody, I was doing a presentation a couple months ago, and there was another guy who works with us, and he says, yeah, you know, NCM is a data company. I never heard anybody say it's a data company, but, you know, in a way, we're a bunch of number crunchers. You know, and we started with a bunch of accountants many, many years ago, but the fact is it all comes down to people. And my part of the business that I always embraced was the people part, and the numbers told me a story, and they told me where to go and what to do. Owners have many resources. What's the best route to process and profitability improvement? What does your team believe the priority should be? So, if you're a dealer or a general manager, really, what does that question mean? What does your team believe the priority should be? Are they empowered enough in the first place that you would trust to ask them that question? Or do you ask that question? And why? What does your operating statement indicate? I sometimes do a presentation that's titled, "What is your financial statement not telling you?" Well, if one was just looking at a financial statement, unless they're very, very highly trained, they can look at it. The first thing you want to do is understand what? What's the first thing we do when we want to look at a financial statement at the end of the month? Look at the profit. Did I make any money? And if you made a lot of money, if you made above what you expected, human nature is, okay, let's just keep rolling whatever I was doing. But if we didn't make the kind of money we were offered to, does your financial statement alone, is it enough of a tool to tell you? And that's kind of what we're going with that. Do your metrics and accountability measures indicate? What do they indicate? The bigger question is, do you use metrics and accountability to indicate what's going on? And that's what we provide as tools. How much more profit could you be if your opportunities, if you seize all those, and how would you address them? You know, that's a huge question, and if you're just looking at a financial statement, did I make money or not make money, where do I go from here? So proven tool regardless of industry. When you get in an environment, when these people get in an environment, it lets them remove the daily distractions. The level set means compare your operations to peer group and industry benchmarks. You know, even though we have a huge client base, what it means is the majority of dealers in the country are not in a 20 group. The majority of dealers in the country do not use consulting. The majority of dealers in the country probably don't order Grant Cardone tapes or whatever. And has anybody noticed that the cost to own and operate dealerships keeps getting higher? I just ran into a friend of mine from Kansas City who is part of the big luxury group, and they said that 4 years ago they cut 30% of their staff. They said that's the only way they would probably be profitable in a business right now. And I didn't get to talk any further about that, but you know, it's a huge deal. You know, do we have access to anything to help us grow our business? Peer analysis, constructive review. One of the most powerful things is because just like on any sales force or any management team, you've got some people who are self-starters. They're the true winners. They're kind of natural-born leaders, or they certainly aspire to that. In a 20-group setting, you're also going to have some dealers who are more of the aptitude, and you probably have 2/3 of the people who are looking for help, looking for direction, and they're dealers, or they're general managers, or they're upper management. Idea sharing, proven strategies. There's something we call an idea time. Every time we have a 20 group, there is something we call an idea time, and everybody has to bring it. You got to bring a $100 bill, so there's $2,000 sitting on the table, and there's an idea time, and it has to be, you know, something that you've not just made it up on the flight out there. It has to be something you've put in place in your dealership that's worked. You can quantify it. You can pick up your 20 group and say, this is where this moved the needle, and it didn't just sound cool, and it's a winner take all. $2,000 cash, walk away. So there's just, you know, plus there's just ongoing relationships. So I'm not really selling you on the 20 group thing. I'm just telling you how much comparative data and sharing of best practices are. The bottom line benefits, business processes improvement, and increased profitability. So this is a list. It's kind of an eye chart, but it kind of starts with These are all online tools. So I will go over them really quickly because when you open up your online access to a 20 group, you can see this is an example of a dealership. Remember I used those words green, yellow, and red? So this one would be the new car department. So that's operating somewhere between group average and below. Let's just say that's the service department and the parts department. Let's say that's a used car building. Okay, that's operating somewhere between group average and benchmark. So it's on yellow. It's doing okay. And this department in here is operating at or above benchmark. So it's just a glimpse. Composite 2.0, this allows you to go in here and actually customize. A 20 group composite is a 20 group composite. This just allows you to actually customize it. If you kind of found out that you've got four guys in your group that you really think what they do in their market and the way they do business in apples and apples, you can customize a 20 group composite this way. A reality check. This is another page that's on your 20 group. You can just sort of see where you are. And interesting, see what I talked about from left to right. This dealer right here has the largest amount of green and the smallest amount of red opportunities. So this is just a graphic way, and these are the first 2 pages on a 20 group composite before somebody goes in and actually starts looking at numbers. This is called a profit trend analysis. So in our 20 group composites by department, we zero down what's happened in the last 90 days, because most thing is year to date. You know, what's happening year to date, but we can boil it down to what's happening in the last 90 days. What happened last month, the month before, and the month before that, whether it's new cars, used cars, parts, body, personnel, productivity, expenses. And we also have a separate thing called a profit trend analysis we use in our classes and also in our in-dealership consulting. In our in-dealership consulting, all we're really focused on what's happening right now. So the profit trend analysis is what we pretty much use. Okay, let's get into some numbers. What opportunities are being missed? Is anybody familiar with the term called 30% net to gross, besides Chris? You ever heard that term, 30% net to gross? We call that the wellness factor. You know, and we've got pages in the front part of the 20 group where you can look and see, you know, how am I doing? And we break down, you know, how am I going to get that? If you are at 30% net to gross, you are profitable. And we go through, as a whole dealership, we break it down. Some departments, like the service department, where our gross profit margins are higher, right? We probably have the highest gross profit margin opportunities in service, second in parts. Body shop, if you have a body shop, you have high gross profit margins, less in used and less in new. Okay, so that's what the net to gross means. Profit to sales, and we'll show you examples in a minute. The public companies, all public companies, of course now there's public automotive groups, use net to sales. So using Inchum benchmarks, ask how much profit did you potentially miss in the first half of 2012? That's what we look at. You made X, your peers made X at benchmark, and that's what we're talking about, benchmark. If I had been at benchmark, how much money? When we're in NCMI classes in Kansas City or Overland Park, we'll do an exercise with the department manager and just say, if I was at benchmark, what would my department have made? And then we said, go ahead, because you know what your pay plan is. How much would your pay plan have paid you out?